All right, welcome back. I hope you take advantage of the competition. Now, on to our next fireside chat. We interrupt this broadcast AI, sports radio, and the future of thought leadership. It will be moderated by NASA Presidential Innovation Fellow James Villarrubia.
Hi, PK. Thanks for introducing me. Great to be here.
NASA's work to revolutionize the future of aviation often starts with a what if. What if we can fly safer, faster, longer? At NASA, our Convergent Aeronautics Solutions team, or CAS, apply innovation and curiosity to explore the what ifs.
I'm James Villarrubia, and my what ifs are centered around artificial intelligence, or AI. I joined NASA as a Presidential Innovation Fellow. The fellowship matches government agencies with industry experts who serve as strategic advisors. As a fellow, I'm part of a team of scientists and engineers helping integrate AI into NASA's research. In simple terms, AI is a complex computer program. We take vast volumes of information, train our AI to understand it, and then use the AI to reveal connections in the data we couldn't see before. Those new connections help us expand our understanding and imagination. Our current work is all about asking our AI models to write their own what-ifs, to imagine and tell stories about the future of aviation and the planet. A really good story can help inspire our engineers to build something new, to see a problem in a new way, and help challenge our assumptions about how advances in aviation might impact humankind. For example, what if emerging aviation technologies can be applied to global problems like food waste, healthcare, or climate change? Right now, we are using AI to help imagine the future of drone-delivered medicine, expand medical access to rural areas, and bring aviation support to disaster zones. We're also using AI to imagine new ways to reduce aviation's impact on the environment, like cleaning the air as we fly. To reach a better future, we have to first imagine it. And our AI tools help us imagine more than we ever could before.
Artificial intelligence research is supported by CAS. To learn more about artificial intelligence and other CAS research projects, visit www.nasa.gov/CAS or scan the QR code.
All right. Well, great seeing that video. All right. Well, I believe we're going to have a guest join us. There he is. All right. JR, welcome to Imagine Aviation. It's really exciting to be here with you and hear about your journey in AI and sports media, which when I sort of heard about your background, I was a little surprised. It was not a space I sort of expected AI to be sort of taking off, but you have clearly have proven me wrong. So why don't you kick us off by explaining a little bit about what Sports Brief AI is and sort of your journey to sort of getting to where you are today.
Oh, not a problem, James. And thank you for the introduction. Thank you, everybody, for having me here at this event, because it's ultimately about thinking outside the box. And yeah, I'm a traditional sportscaster, broadcaster in the sense I have a nationally syndicated show on CBS Sports Radio called the JR Sport Brief Show. So I will talk about everything from the NFL Combine to LeBron James to Major League Baseball spring training. I take phone calls from your next door neighbor about who needs to be traded. And so I'm a traditional sports broadcaster in that sense. Something that has existed, sports radio, in a full-time basis is about almost 40 years old at this point in time. But my background and how I got there is very different. It is not traditional, not by any sense of the imagination. I started off as a producer, a fan of music, My uncle is a famous DJ named Fat Man Scoop. I grew up around music and DJs and people spinning records. And that got me into my first office job at Vibe Magazine. And then I went and helped him produce a television show called Man and Wife on MTV. And I did all the online marketing for that. And so, kind of dating back to high school and college, I was with DJs. I was at Vibe Magazine when magazines were still relevant. And I had a television producer by the name of Fred Seibert basically say to me, hey, you're working with so many different people and mediums. Why don't you help out yourself? I helped Man and Wife to 81 million views online. And Fred said, listen, instead of helping everybody else, I'm starting an online production company. Why don't you start your own sports show? So in 2009, the JR Sport Brief Show was born. I started it in my bedroom in the Bronx, New York, and literally encouraged Gary Sheffield, who's now long retired. I told him he should retire. And that was my first video. And I just continued growing into millions and millions of views online. Went to television with NBC, have contributed to NBA television, WFAN New York City. And now I have a nationally syndicated show on CBS Sports Radio. And for all the work that I've did as an online influencer, an early influencer, I had to do everything from beginning to end. I had to shoot, I had to edit, I had to record. And now with technology, thinking about it from 2009 to here we are in 2024, technology has moved so fast, it allows me to kind of save time with what I can produce. And I'm working on a tool right now with Sport Brief AI that can eliminate a lot of the time and a lot of the guesswork from having to shoot, edit, read all the information. So in essence, I'm able and have started to quote unquote recreate myself, but then I've also shared this and teased a lot of teams and leagues to say, hey, you could be more efficient in your sport brief. And so that's what we've pretty much been working on. So go from YouTube to traditional media to the utilization of AI is something that's real exciting, and we've got a lot of great traction on.
That's great. I think what sort of struck me about your comment was this idea of sort of it's translating you into AI, and I think that is something that the project that we're working on at NASA around AI and CAS is really trying to tap into similar things of how do we get the expertise of all of these researchers and across all these fields and sort of bring them into some sort of shared collective understanding and knowledge that's sort of accessible even if you're not in the room. But I mean, it sounds like your journey was from a practical, I'm doing the thing, I'm building the thing, I'm editing the video. I mean, how did you start that process of sort of breaking it down into sort of AI capable components? I mean, how did that journey happen? Because I'm sure there's some people out there who are feeling a little bit overwhelmed by AI and don't know sort of where they can start.
Right. There's so many different tools that are out there. I've really had to break down. My partner, Charlie Stetler, and I are partners in this. And we both understand like how much work that we put in on a day-to-day basis. Literally, when we conclude this chat, I'm leaving my office and I'm going over to the CBS office to broadcast our show, And so from what I do traditionally over the air or whether I do it digitally, the first part of it is consumption. I'm a sports fan, so I keep up with what goes on, but I want to be more informed so I can understand both sides of any argument and draw a conclusion. So I'm taking in data and information, whether it's the stats, whether it's the numbers, you want to know historical facts and information, what's going on, what might happen, what has taken place in the past. So I may have a baseline of remembering it, but I'm consuming more. And then I'm putting together the plan of how I want to deliver that information. Is it going to be audio through the radio? Is it going to be on television where the formats are different? In television, I have, a 5-minute segment where I have to shoot out the information. On radio, I have maybe anywhere from 2 to 4 hours to kind of walk through and story tell. And so a big part of it is collecting the data. What do I want to talk about? How do I deliver it? And the mechanisms. And so what we're doing with Sport Brief AI is the same thing. We've been able to digitally recreate myself. The next part of the process is for the tool to take in all the information. The Yankees just beat the Red Sox 3-2. Look at the box score, but then be able to then push that out via audio or video. And so I think similar to what you all do, even though it's sports, and then what you guys do at NASA is very different. It starts with data. So from your perspective, there's so much information, there's so many people that you work with. How do you kind of compound all of that together?
Yeah, I mean, I think from our side, the journey was sort of similar. Is that we had to do it and be good at it as humans, do it the manual way. I think there's a sort of a myth around sort of AI, even as sort of this newest iteration of it with generative AI, that it's just some magical box you throw in data into and you get these awesome things. But coaxing sort of really high quality specific outputs, really what you want, has been really a challenge for us. So we had to figure out, okay, well, how would a human do this? What are the steps that we take as a team? We got all these experts in a room to draw out the best ideas, the most creative ideas. I mean, as sort of mentioned in the video before this, we are trying to imagine a lot of future scenarios. And if you don't give the AI the right instructions, you don't give it enough data, it's going to give you very boring answers. And I think you probably imagine it's like, oh great, the Yankees won the game. Like who cares? They want maybe some key plays. They want to know sort of like what that means for their run for the pennant or whatever it is. And that contextual information, that that sort of narrative is important. So we had to sort of figure out how to make AI tell narratives, how to sort of break out and imagine these sort of more interesting futures that aren't just sort of very blasé or sort of boring. Yes, drones will fly and AI is good or AI is bad. We needed more than that to sort of imagine good things and good outcomes, bad outcomes, and then sort of help us sort of put some color to that, as it were. But I mean, it sounds like you are taking a similar approach, in that, I mean, it's not like you are just taking the stats and generating some sort of fill in the blanks, Mad Libs version of AI sports media, which I think we've all seen in the last few years. Maybe we didn't know we were seeing it, but it's been out there. It sounds like you're doing something even sort of more nuanced on sort of multi-channel and sort of more narrative focused. Can you talk about sort of what that transition, what sort of that value add is?
Absolutely. The benefit of what I do, and this is my approach to everything, is to tell a story. That's it. Even and people may recognize it on air, whether it be on television or radio or through digital pieces or bits. My thought process in delivering anything is, what is the beginning, the middle, and the end? What do I want people to think about? It's not so much, especially nowadays in sports, it's very cookie cutter to say, I believe B, you believe A, B. You got to have one side or the other. Why are we forgetting all the other letters in the alphabet? I hate boring. I don't want to do anything that anybody else is doing. You can look at what's been done and you can think about what else can be done. And so I think about creating content or ideation like farmland. It's like you have corn over there, right? Or you have, I don't know, seeds over there, sesame. I have no idea. What can I do? What can I farm that's going to allow me to be successful? We can all be farmers, but what am I going to deliver that's going to be different? And so the benefit that I've really had is I've had years, 2009 up until now, of content. I have thousands of videos. I have thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of content. And so we've been able to develop a tool that doesn't just, look and or sound like me, but it also has picked up some of that nuance to be able to say, okay, this is some of the sarcasm. This is some of the humor. This is, well, this guy, oh, he gave up 4 home runs in the last game. It's not that he just gave up 4 home runs. He stunk in the last game, And so there's some of the nuance that exists there. And that's part of the nuance, is that it's not just looking at the current data surrounding the game.
Yes.
At a baseline, the tool has an understanding of who I am.
And I think that's where you're sort of, I suspect your broad media background and experience really sort of, you can really tap into that. I think one of the things, coming from originally from the sort of policy side of the house and then sort of transitioning to the AI, now writing AI to help improve sort of policy decisions. I find it interesting that, we are working on projects, within NASA to imagine these sort of grand, either utopian or dystopian futures and try to find something that works. But we have, it strikes me as sort of a very similar approach. We have to start with a beginning, a middle, and an end to a story. We have to sort of imagine, well, who are the actors? What would they do, even if it's a surprising action, and sort of carry that through through the future and then have an ending. But it all comes back to a narrative, because if we can't convey a story and saying, hey, this is why this is important. I mean, you can't give someone facts about the future 50 years from now. there are very few facts that we know. It's like, oh, this is a definite in the future. But you got to paint a picture for them to say, hey, if we don't solve this problem, this is what it might look like. This is how people will struggle or suffer. This is how we could help them now with research, today. So it's interesting that you sort of, to have such different fields as sports media and sort of aviation futures, and yet still find sort of commonality in sort of how we're approaching that. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, and then that's kind of the behind the scenes, and I think for a forefront element of it is for a general public, especially when it comes down to AI, it's not scaring the daylights out of folks.
Yes,
Having folks feel like, oh my God, this is something that is going to replace me. For what I do, I don't want to say it's anybody's easily replaceable. I think the cream can rise to the top. But I talk at colleges all over the country. I get emails from students who look at what I've done on YouTube, and then they look at me on TV and the radio and podcasting, and they go, oh my God, I want to do what you do. But when I go into these classrooms, whether it's Ohio State or Syracuse, there's like 200 students in front of me that all want to do the same thing. And all you have to do is multiply that all across the country, and you look at the opportunities and the money and you go, hey, everybody isn't going to be able to do what they want to do or get to where they want to be in the same space. And so I can kind of say the same thing with AI. It's not looking at it as, oh my God, this is going to take away less jobs. I look at this as something that can help out people and businesses. It's just about thinking outside the box. I mean, who would have thought years ago that NASA is now employing everyone that it employs, or a Google employs everyone that it employs? Because let's be real, these are organizations and opportunities that did not exist 50, 100, 150 years ago. Things change, technology changes, and there might be jobs that do kind of go down and disappear, but there are whole industries that pop up and recreate new jobs. And it's up to us to say, hey, do I need to go ahead and learn a new skill? Do we need to educate the future workforce on, what's in front of us? So I think people get scared right away with what's directly in front of them without thinking forward.
Yeah. I think your example with Google's, pretty telling. If you look at these sort of the original Google, they were search engine experts, and then suddenly, how many products does the sort of broad alphabet have now across so many industries? Even Google X has done sort of dirigibles and space, upper atmospheric flight. So I think your point is well taken, that AI can, will probably, hasten the end of some functions of jobs, but the jobs are probably going to change. It's not like Microsoft Excel or spreadsheets broadly changed the nature of, or they changed the nature of accounting. They didn't get rid of accountants. Accountants just do something different. They're focused more on different elements of the job. Given your sort of experience in sort of a lot of spaces across media, where are you most excited for AI to sort of take off? Where do you think there's really sort of a ripe area for AI to sort of be transformational, hopefully for the positive, in any of the industries that you've worked in, not necessarily sports briefing?
It's efficiency, just in a general sense, in all avenues of production. I mean, it takes a lot to, especially the world that we live in now, to produce content. You need visual artists, you need voiceover artists, you need editors, you need producers. And these are jobs where everyone comes to the table and there might be 20 people involved, 25 to 30 people involved. And what might from the naked eye look like a simple production, like a 22-minute television show, people don't understand the pre-production that goes into that hours before. But the utilization of AI can kind of streamline everything, whether it's radio or television, from the pre-production to the during the show, production of Chiron and graphics to post. For instance, people don't necessarily think about the graphic arts in regards to promoting a visual product. But nowadays, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or X or what have you, TikTok, they're thumbnails. You want to capture someone's attention first. Well, you used to find a visual artist to help prepare that. You might have had to pick up some Photoshop skills here or there. But the fact is, with today, you can literally type in a prompt, and something that might have taken you 30 to 2 hours, 30 minutes to 2 hours, a computer can create that for you in seconds. And so it's just about streamlining and becoming more efficient. And in a lot of cases, it could save money. Someone like me, can I kind of tweak photos and visuals? Yes, but I'm not a graphic designer. You know, I can save myself time and money. You don't have to be a giant company. You could be a small, nimble company as well.
Yeah, I like that point at the end, sort of that it's some of these features where, you know, even 2 years ago were totally out of the reach of most startups or most small companies. And now it's like, well, everyone can sort of play in that space now. Sort of the efficiency has sort of lowered the bar of entry in a lot of these spaces, which, you know, is, I think, exciting for people who want to venture out and try new things and create new jobs, new fields, new companies. I think that's, you know, that's spot on.
Yeah.
And
It's
I
all
believe,
about sorry, James, it's all about being nimble. Like, it's still,
yeah,
I have been all over the world and I've interviewed a who's who of people, places I didn't think I'd ever go in my life, whether it's Rio de Janeiro or talking to Pele in London or hanging out with Kobe Bryant in Seattle, dog sledding in Alaska. Like, I say all of that. I started my show with a shoebox and a Sony Handycam. All right.
yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's 2009, 2015, or 2024. A lot of times we have to look at the tools that are readily available, not look at what we don't have access to. What can you do with what you have right now? And you'd be shocked where it can take you if you take some time to planning and go through inventory and just do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the efficiency point that you were making earlier is sort of certainly has resonated with NASA. Sort of like, just go out and do it. As we've finally been able to sort of get some of these high quality, you know, large language models, these AI models, you know, available within NASA, we've been sort of experimenting, and it is really not replacing humans, but I think what we're focused on is how can we do, again, that manual process, but can we do it faster? Can we do more? There's value if we could spend 6 months creating sort of 5 or 6 believable scenarios to sort of challenge our preconceived notions about the future of aviation. But now we can have an AI create 100 or 1,000 and actually help us sort of draw out themes across those. Like, well, you know, what are the commonly occurring, you know, threats or you know, benefits of investing in this or that we can imagine. So, you know, suddenly the power and our focus is not on just creating more scenarios. It's actually about sort of evaluating which scenarios we want, which are the better paths, what are the more realistic futures. So I think you're right that sort of efficiency is enabling creativity in certainly a new way. How do you imagine that, like, the storytelling aspect? I know we talked about this before, but I mean, I guess how do you imagine that as sort of changing the appeal of sort of or the accessibility of sort of sports media for all levels? Because imagine a lot of the sports media up to date has been focused on some of the big teams, the big names. I mean, I grew up in New Orleans. We had I think a AAA team, the New Orleans Zephyrs. I didn't see a Major League Baseball, game until well into my 20s. But I wish I had sort of better reporting. I wish I had sort of had a story to sort of bring me into those sports that we just didn't have, and no one really followed. No one really loved the Saints back then. You had to be a diehard fan. But can you tell me about the sort of the nature of that and how it sort of shapes sort of like down ticket, down industry, as it were, in
Well,
sort of sports?
it's pretty cool because up until now we have talked to a lot of the big leagues, and then we've talked to some of the smaller leagues. And we know the world is a very big place, but it's also a very small place. And so this tool that we're creating, that we started, can be applied to any sport. And so here in the United States of America, in North America, yeah, we might be most familiar with NFL, NBA, MLB, and the NHL. And then we know that there's also MLS. But then when I go to the other side of the world, I've been out to India, and I got a taste of cricket. I may not be able to tell you.
Ask about cricket, yeah.
Yeah, I may not be able to sit here and tell you about the Royal Challengers the same way that I could tell you about the Dallas Cowboys, but there are billions of people on the other side of the world who have a massive interest. And so whether or not you happen to be a fan of the All Blacks in rugby, or you happen to be a fan of the cricket league, the IPL, or you're a fan of Major League Baseball, or you're a fan of the American Baseball Association here in the United States of America, there is a trickle down. And so it's a lot easier for smaller, quote unquote, organizations who don't necessarily have a gigantic budget to utilize our tool to kind of get the word out there and be more efficient and save money. And the added bonus is that this is what we're doing is multilingual. And whether or not you happen to be a fan of Victor Wembanyama in Paris, France, or you're a Wembanyama fan because the NBA is a great marketer and you live in Sao Paulo, or you just so happen to be the guy in Texas who likes the Spurs and just you only speak Spanish, we're delivering the same content in multiple language, regardless of where you live. And so if you think about Olympics, football, soccer, which we all know is a global sport, we're able to reach anybody. And so whether you're Major League Baseball or you are the Zephyrs or even smaller in an independent league, you know, we got you covered.
That's awesome. I mean, as you were talking, I was sort of thinking, I mean, I have to, you know, I haven't been able to see sort of my high school, you know, back in the day. I haven't seen them play in years, but, you know, I donate, I try to support them since I've long since left New Orleans. But I can imagine that, you know, at the college level, even at the high school level, that being able to sort of tap into this sort of accessibility enables alumni to participate and support schools, you know, long after they're gone, and sort of re-engage that community of people. I mean, are you seeing excitement at the collegiate level, even in, you know, maybe even in sort of the less popular sports, where there are good stories about athletes overcoming real challenges or adversity, just in sports that usually wouldn't get the big bucks or the big coverage?
Yeah, absolutely, because content is king. And so in talking to some of the conferences that we've had conversations with, having conversations with the independent leagues, they say what a lot of entrepreneurs say. If we only had this, or if only we could do this more efficiently.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what league it is, but I've recently had conversations with a major sports league that is not one of the big five, that pretty much said, hey, you know what? We want to produce post-game content, but the editor at night at the end of the games is not reliable. And I have to pay the editor a grip. It costs a lot of money to have the editor on. And oh man, you mean to tell me that post-game, you know, we can utilize your tool and I don't have to, you know, yell at my editor for producing the post-game content late? I said yes. And it was automatic. Oh, wow, we can save money on this. So it's like, yes. And you also have added inventory content-wise that you can sell against. And so not only am I saving you cash, I'm also giving you the ability to kind of bring some in, because you now have content that you produce cheaply, but that was also of a higher quality.
Right. That's, I mean, I think that's great. I think we have, again, another strange similarity. I think one of the things that we've been focused on within our sort of AI project in CAS is that we've seen a lot of, even across government, a lot of, you know, small AI projects, you know, people attempting to build from scratch all over again. And there's a lot of, I suspect, sort of wasted effort trying to rebuild this stuff. And it ends up being inefficient because the focus, the real sort of the narrow element that makes your use case and your use of AI very unique and specific, that might only be sort of 5-10% of what you need to do to get it up and running. But if, you know, what we want to enable within CAS is really saying, hey, we've got this sort of core structure, the 90%, we'll give it to you. It's there, it's available. Bring us your use case, bring us, you know, your specific need, and we can sort of, again, make it efficient to sort of to use AI and tap into that capability across aviation. And, you know, we certainly want to be able to sort of enable, you know, external third parties and companies and bring in sort of any data that we have in this aviation ecosystem. Because again, if the more we can sort of tap into it and share and collaborate, the more efficient the efficiency engine of AI gets. So I mean, I think we're really at a turning point, it sounds like.
We are, and I think it's all about thinking outside the box. You know, I don't care what industry that you're in. Innovation comes about because someone says, "Oh, well, this is a hole that can be filled. This is something that we don't have that should be easy." And in a lot of cases, big, huge, giant organizations, when you put a lot of brains into one room and everybody has an opinion, it's difficult to be nimble. But it's all about thinking outside the box. It doesn't matter what industry it is. And with AI right now, with the world that we live in, the possibilities are endless, and they're going to
Yeah.
continue to grow and then move fast.
Where have you seen the limits of AI, at least today, that you're saying, hey, we can't do this. This is sort of an area it struggled with, and maybe it'll improve in the future. Sort of where are those sort of gaps currently that maybe some innovators out there can sort of help us solve in the next few years?
Well, I think it's nuance, and I come from the perspective, obviously, as a talent, a producer, but it's nuance. We know that computers learn at a ridiculous rate. AI learns at a ridiculous rate, and it's just a matter of, okay, when is it going to be a little more human? I know that's the scary part, but it's nuance. And so the
Yeah.
benefit for someone like me is having content that goes back to 2009. And so it's a little bit easier to say here's nuance as opposed to taking the time to kind of learn the intricacies of a person, knowing humor, knowing how to tell a story. When do you go high? When do you go low? When do
Yeah.
you whisper? When do you talk fast? Like that's nuance, and that's something that takes time, and I'm fortunate to have space there.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that you can actually sort of train an AI against your humor and nuance because you've got a decade, more than a decade of content to draw on. That's interesting. I mean, are you
That I
finding
own
that?
also, by the way, which
Sorry.
is nice, that I also own.
Yes, that you own. Yes, I mean, I know that's another issue, and certainly in terms of sort of a lot of what even sort of what the media has been sort of dealing with, and sort of the productions of movies about who owns the rights to that. But you own the content, which I think is a great start. So, what advice do you think you would give to people sort of out there who wanna get started, maybe on the aviation side, or anyone out there who wants to sort of dig into AI? Because it's not like you came to this with an engineering background. You sort of dove in headfirst with a real sort of understanding of a space of interest, of a skill set that was not AI related, and you have now
I, I think
taken
it's
big steps.
I think it's as simple as, hey, what's going to make my life and could potentially make other people's lives easier?
Hmm.
For instance, what I'm doing with Sport Brief AI can make my life easier by reproducing content that would take me time to create, but now it can only take minutes or seconds. This is no different than how am I going to heat up my food, at the end of the night? Do I got to go get wood and start a fire, or do I use the stove or the air fryer or the microwave? And it's the same thing. Where's the gap? Where can it get filled? And how can you kind of look at AI as a tool to help you get there? What's going to make your life and other people's lives easier? And that's the part about thinking outside the box.
Really, yeah, I really love that. I think we have been trying to encourage that broadly within CAST of sort of how do we think outside the box, or at least expand the box that we're in currently, and figure out where those edges are and where how to push against them. So, well, I mean, JR, this has been absolutely wonderful to have you join us today and talk about your experience. I think hopefully we'll all be hopping on. To Sports Brief AI, either check it out, but also seeing some of your AI content about our favorite teams, wherever they may be, at whatever scale they may be playing at, and sort of seeing your work out there in the future. So again, thank you for joining us.
No, thank you guys for the time. I really appreciate it. Very different fields, but I think the ideas are still there to think outside the box. So thank you to you, James and Angela, who helped put this together, and everybody over at NASA. Thank you.
Awesome, great. All right, well, I think that is about all the time that we have. I think we'll be lining up our next guest in a second. So, all right, and I think we will be handing it over to a Imagine Aviation video. All right, thanks everyone.